Hi everybody, today I'm going to be making roasted salmon for dinner with roasted vegetables, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, some roasted tomatoes, and to accompany that we're going to have some sauteed fried rice. So I have a garbage bowl over here that I put up most of my stuff into this way, and I have to keep going back and forth to the garbage can. We're starting with some onions. Nothing like some fresh sauteed onions in a pan. The onions, I basically slice it into thin slices, and then after that I turn it sideways and I cut it into tiny dices. This way it sautés up really nice and translucent and into small pieces, almost kind of melts and disappears into your pot. I love using a lot of onions, and yep, this is one small onion. So we're gonna put that to the side over there. Perfect. Now I'm gonna go ahead and chop up some garlic. I do love the flavor of garlic. I'm gonna throw some of this into the vegetables, and I'll also throw some into the rice. I think my eyes are burning from the onions. So that's our garlic finely chopped up. I'm gonna push that to the side right there. I also want to put a piece of ginger into my rice. So some people kind of just use a spoon to scrape off the ginger, but it's perfectly fine just cutting it off also, I'm sure. So go ahead, and if you're going to choose to do it this way, instead of grating it, you can just slice it up into thin slices and then julienne it sideways. And then I go ahead and I dice it up. This is some thyme that I washed, that I brought up from my garden. One thing that grows here, I'm grateful, is this broadleaf thyme. It's so good, and I can have it all the time when I need it. Just nice and fresh. So I'm gonna use some of this to sprinkle onto the vegetables while it's baking, and some I'm gonna throw into the rice. So tomatoes that I'm gonna be roasting in the oven, I'm gonna cut them into quarters. These are Roma tomatoes. For me personally, I think they're great addition. And for the broccoli, I'm simply gonna cut this in here, get into the center and cut it apart. This way you can kind of loosen up all that broccoli. Okay, so I went ahead and added some olive oil, some black pepper, some kosher salt. I used a coarse kosher salt. I can control how much salt I use. And I also added some garlic powder into this and just gave it a toss, and that's all prepared and ready to be thrown into the oven. Now, as far as the Brussels sprouts go, I'm simply going to cut off the ends of it like that. I already washed these Brussels sprouts, but I'm just going to flake out the top layer, and then I'm going to cut them lengthwise into half. And I'm going to go ahead and toss these as well with some olive oil and some salt and pepper, and just kind of mix those up the same way I did the broccoli. I went ahead and added some salt, a little bit of ground pepper, and some EVOO. So here's the salmon that I'm going to be baking this afternoon. It is wild caught Atlantic salmon. I seasoned it up with some green seasoning. It had ginger, some garlic, some broadleaf thyme, fine leaf thyme, hot wiri peppers. I sprinkled on some salt, I also sprinkled on some ground black pepper, and I added a little bit of lemon juice to that. And I seasoned it for a little bit over an hour. I just didn't have time to do it overnight. So I'm gonna go ahead and bake this. But before I put this into the pan, I sprayed my pan with some non-stick spray. 10 minutes on each side would be fine. So 20 minutes at 400 degrees, I'm gonna be baking this for, and I will be baking the vegetables at the same time so that everything will be done all at once. And while that's baking, I'm gonna go ahead and start making the rice. Okay, now that the oil is nice and heated, I'm gonna go ahead and throw my onions in and have these onions saute up nicely. I do love a lot of onions, so you don't have to add one whole onion. It was a medium size, onion. You add the garlic and the ginger and let that saute down a little bit as well. And I think I'm going to add all the seasonings, actually, the thyme, the broadleaf thyme that I cut up. Now, I am not adding pepper into this because I ran out of pepper. So if anybody's got some pepper lying around that they want to share with me, I'd love to accept it. To add a tiny little bit more salt into here. Let that saute down a little bit more. I'm just going to wash my hands off. To this, I have about 2 cups of brown rice in here. So I'm going to go ahead and layer the rice onto here. And kind of make it all one layer and let it cook down a little bit. All right. And into my cup, I'm going to add about 4 cups of water, warm water. I'm not going to add the water quite yet. I'm just going to let that rice saute a little bit and get a little bit of a brownish color to it. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the water in, but I don't like when it steams all the way up. So I'm going to go ahead and put the cover over it and kind of get the water to drizzle into there. So here we go. All right, it's bubbling away. So I'm going to go ahead and lower my stove, and I'm going to give that a little bit of a stir and let this absorb all this gorgeous water. All the flavors will absorb and melt together. I'm just going to add a little bit of butter into here. Just going to add about a tablespoon of butter, and I'm using unsalted butter because I don't want to keep adding anything that has more salt into this, because then it just, you know, it's hard to control how much salt you actually have in there. Let this cook down for 20 minutes on low until it's absorbed all of the water on a very low heat, and we will see what the end result looks like. So here it is, my dinner for tonight. Notice I've got a lot of veggies in my plate. Got a wedge of lemon, nice grilled roasted broccoli, tomatoes, Brussels sprouts, a little bit of rice that I sauteed up. That is pepper sauce. I can't eat without it. And great old salmon. I love this salmon. Look at the color of it when it's nice and wild. It has a different color, and it's got some of the seasonings that I marinated with. It's baked into it. So bon appetit, everybody. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe and share. Thank you so much.